Do I start?
I'm checking to see if it's live yet. Checking to see if it's live. Oh, we're live. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Oh, hold on. Wait. I have to mute. Oh, we're gone. We're live.
We're live.
We're live. Okay. I'm checking to see if it's live yet. Oh, I can hear myself.
Oh, you can hear yourself because I'm not muted. Sam's back.
I am back.
But I messed up on part of our technical stuff, so we are a mess today.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay. It's fine. We're cute. It's okay. And smart. Smart's most important. We have I'm going to speed through these announcements except for one, but I'm so excited about our mystery guest.
Yes, I set this mystery guest up. I have given Samantha 2 clues, but I don't think she knows who it is. So we're gonna.
I have a hunch.
You might be right. But I think it'd be hysterical if you were completely wrong.
I think it would be too. Okay, so really quickly, we talked about this last week. Torrance Theater has this wonderful play at home series. So make sure and check that out, Torrance Theater, because for December, on December 13th, which is Sunday, Catherine Rahm is going to be playing Miss Daisy in Dragon. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too.
It's going to be great. So check that out. It's Torrance Theater with R-E, torrancetheatercompany.com. And it's the Play at Home series, and you don't want to miss that. And you just have to register. I think it's free.
I think so.
It's free. And you just have to register, reserve your spot, and then you get to watch it. And I'm really excited about this. I will definitely be doing that. So we may have to figure out what we're doing for KP Live. Maybe they'll watch the show.
Right.
Alice Lunsford. Don't forget about Alice Lunsford's book. Her new book that's out, so make sure and check that out. She announced that last member meeting. We are going to have visuals for you soon. And then we have, I'm going to skip this a little bit. We've got the Infinite Jest Telethon coming up.
Ooh.
I know, I'm very excited. The only comedic theater company in Los Angeles is doing a hilarious production of Hamlet. I know, everyone's confused.
A hilarious production of Hamlet?
I know.
That seems like
here's the deal. This is called Clowning Around with Shakespeare, where you control the hijinks. Tonight, the whole ham.
Oh, great.
And you get to make actors do crazy things, like do the next scene in a Scottish accent, or do the next scene wearing a clown nose. And it's a fundraiser telethon. Melody Rivers and I are hosting it. We're emceeing it. It's going to be a hoot. There's some Ketwin members in it. Don't want to miss it. It is December 12th. 4 p.m. is happy hour. 5 p.m. is Hysterical Hamlet. Let's see then. Oh, we've got our new play series.
We have our new play virtual theater series. I am going to be directing the next one, which is on Wednesday after the membership meeting. It is called Recipe. It was written by Robert Wybazal. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but I get an A+ for trying. And it has Marty Feldman, Joanna Chergin, Mariah Buthong, Xavier J. Bush, and Silas Quinn. It's a really, really great script, and I can't wait for all of you to watch it.
It is. I got a little preview.
Which I didn't know about. So.
I know, I'm so bad. But it's really good. It's a great script.
Great script.
And as part of our new play series, it's short. I wanted more. I'm going to be honest. I feel like it's the beginning. It's a whole beginning, middle, and end. But I feel like it's a beginning of like,
it could be
so much more to know about this family. So
right.
I'm very excited. Sam's done a wonderful job directing. And
thank you.
You're welcome. And come see it. If you don't have the member info, the Zoom link, email marketing@ketwinplayers.org, and we will get that to you. Come see what we're all about during a little member meeting, and then watch the show after. But per the usual, we will put it on the YouTube Sunday after KP Live.
Right. And it'll be up until I think December 20th is the date that we are changing it to the next one.
And that'll be the next show. Yay. We're also still taking submissions, so email plays@ketwinplayers.org if you have a play that you want to see produced. There you go.
Great.
You know the
rules. That it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce this guest, and so the first thing I say might give it away for Samantha, but this person is a professor of mine at LMU, and yeah, you know who it is. And so she is a playwright. She teaches me playwriting. You might know her from plays such as Crimes of the Heart, which she won the Pulitzer Prize for drama for. She also wrote Control Freaks and L Play and Revelers and so many other things. And so it is my pleasure to welcome on Beth Henley.
Oh my gosh.
Yay, there she is.
Sorry I missed your birthday.
Oh, that's okay. Oh my gosh.
I'm so glad you can make it tonight.
I'm thrilled. It's so great to meet you via whatever we are.
Right, of course.
Thank you so much for joining us. Did
I
Sam tell you I was going to try and crash his class?
Pardon?
Did Sam tell you I was going to try and crash his class with you?
No, I haven't told her this yet.
He told me we were talking about his next classes, and he said, and my playwriting teacher has won a Pulitzer, and I went, who's your playwriting teacher? And he said, Beth Henley. And I was like, oh, I'm coming over to sit offside of your camera and watch class all the time. He's like, you can totally do that.
Totally do it. It's Zoom.
Right.
Zoom is magical. Yay. Thank you. Oh, I have so many questions.
I know you do.
Well, for starters, will you tell us a little bit about you, like the Reader's Digest version of who you are and how you got involved in theater?
My home state is Mississippi, and I grew up in a very segregated and harsh society, but my mother was an actress, and she was a beautiful actress, and she started this theater, the New Stage, and I just loved watching her in plays. When I first went to the theater, we didn't get to see the show because it was too adult, but they had this set and they started tearing it down. And my mother's crying because she says, that's my kitchen, and it was Hatful of Rain. And I was just so struck by this phenomenal idea that you could love something so much, give it to people, and then destroy it and go on.
Wow.
Yeah. That is the most heartbreaking for me still to this day is the strike.
Oh, absolutely.
Watching something you poured your heart into, exactly like you said, be destroyed.
Right. And you have to think about, especially at Kentwood, we were putting up 6 shows a year. So it's happening 6 times. It's just, first off, crazy how fast we turn around. It's literally within a few days, but it's like how many times that happens is just like, so it's kind of insane.
Don't tell anybody, but that's why I avoid work Sundays in the morning.
Because you want to see when the next set is already starting.
I want it gone. I don't want to watch the destruction process. Let me just show up.
Build up. You want to watch the building, not the taking down.
Yes. So that's how you got introduced to theater. And you're an actress as well.
That's some sort of fiction. I acted some in college because I kind of was doing I was in a theater program. But I think acting is really great for a writer.
Yeah.
Because even if you have a small part, like I was in a Moliere, The Imaginary Invalid, and I had like in one scene, but you got to hear the whole play over and over again and the rhythm of it and how the audience responded. And also if you're memorizing Shakespeare, that's some intense knowledge about language. But I have never, I can say this truthfully, gotten paid to act. Oh, except for an outdoor theater in New Salem State Park in 1976. But such a little amount.
Wow. But you had the experience. Right. Well, at what point in time did you go, I can write this? I can write stories that change people's lives. At what point in time did you make that decision or discovery?
This is going to sound pathetic, but after I won the Pulitzer Prize.
That's when you discovered you could.
After the fact.
You know, that kind of makes sense, actually. And I'm guessing, is it like when you're, okay, let me rewind here. Let me rewind. Let's talk about Crimes of the Heart for a minute. And at first, I have to say, I don't know if I've even shared this with Sam, but Crimes of the Heart was my first meaty play where I'm delving into researching and character analysis. And because I was in,
You directing?
I played, it was in school, in high school, and I played Meg. And then, and funny enough that you bring up directing, because I fell so much in love with the show, and I had all these opinions that I would speak to our teacher and director about. And so second semester, he said, Sam, I think you might be a director. You should try directing. And he said, you love Crimes of the Heart. You already know it. Why don't you we'll do a cutting of that, and you just direct your classmates. And I had different classmates than what had been in the part with me. So it wasn't like I was starting fresh, and it was really exciting. So it also meant a lot to me because now I'm about to age myself, but at this time, there are not a ton of female playwrights that are writing female characters that are so layered and have, and we're free to air our dirty laundry, right? So much of the time we have to be all like just the wife or the crazy best friend or whatever. And this is like, I'm flawed. Here are my flaws, but I'm not wrong. And so I love that. So, okay. So this is like a life-changing experience for me. And so I'm curious, when you write it, like like I'm assuming you didn't go, let me write a life-changing play for people, but like what inspired you to put this to paper, this story?
Well, I mean, I really didn't know if I was a writer. I came out, I'd written a play in college, Am I Blue, that they produced, but I used a fake name, Amy Peach, because I thought I was so embarrassed by it. But then I came out to LA, and my grandfather, who's from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, was lost in the woods. He was in his 70s, and he always went out hunting and riding, and his horse came back without him. And so there was this big event where everybody from all over the state really came and walked, 6 feet apart, trying to find him, and found snakes and other things. And finally he showed up at a small kind of shack, and they said, you're Mr. Henley, everybody's looking for you. Do you know where you are? He says, I'm in Copiah County. And so he was fine. But I just like there's all this drama about everybody coming back to look for him. My mother and father were divorced, and she was coming from a party, and she was wearing a evening gown. I mean, just this weird thing of people coming back in a crisis. So that was what sparked it.
Gotcha. And of course, that's exactly what happens, right? There's a crisis and the families come together. It's also interesting to me because you, obviously being from Mississippi, have such an understanding of the South and the duality of of course, Sam, we're all
yeah, me too. I don't know if you knew this, Beth, but I'm also from Louisiana, so I'm your next door neighbor.
That. I'm not sure how I knew that. Maybe it was on.
I might have mentioned it at the first class or something like that.
Well, I know what you mentioned. You said, I fear going back to Louisiana.
Oh, that was probably it.
Don't we all? But there's that duality of the South that I think is misunderstood.
Absolutely.
In that people they don't maybe understand the complexity and the reasoning behind why we smush the drama and we put on that happy face, and why we have that pretense.
Where are you from, Samantha?
Oklahoma. And then my stepdad, who raised me when I was a little girl, is from Tennessee. So I bounced between Oklahoma and Tennessee.
Oh, wow. So you are Southern.
I'm a Southern girl too. So it's so interesting how you just capture obviously the essence of that.
Right.
And I was thinking about that, everybody coming home for an issue. I mean, like when something goes on, everyone bands together. And it also has that feeling of, I can talk about my family. I can say that they're crazy, but you cannot. So when there's that moment, like when Chick says something and it's like, no.
I feel like that family dynamic is definitely like a Southern family dynamic, because when I was, as I've been directing my show for the virtual theater series, that was the exact thing I gave them. I was like, I feel like this family is like, nobody else can talk about my family except for me. So I feel like that's definitely like that kind of, it's just a part of that area,
And it might be a part of human nature. I think a lot of people like to complain about their wives or husbands or children, but not so much if you do.
Absolutely.
Right. Amazing. Okay, so you were inspired to write this story. Talk to me a little bit about the timing, because it's an interesting time to release the story. How is it received? It's essentially your first play,
right?
A little racy.
I mean, I had this incredible luck of a friend of mine. This is how you get places, miracles. Gave it to an agent of hers, and a big agent from New York was at his place in LA, and he got the script and he read it on the plane, and he called me up and said, "I want to be your agent." Oh. And I was like,
wow.
What? And he submitted it to the Actors Theater of Louisville, which was doing, I think they still are doing a new play series, and it co-won the prize. So it was produced in Louisville. And then people were interested in producing it in New York, but they wanted me to change the ending so that everything was perfect and Barnett saved the day. And I was luckily so young and didn't care if I was poor. I just said, no,
That's so interesting, because that's kind of where I'm going for. It's not neat. It doesn't wrap in I mean, it's heartwarming.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Still bad things are coming for some of these people.
Yeah, exactly. And there's not like the knight in shining armor that comes in and is like, everything's going to be fine. I've got this. You know what I mean? So how was it received when you got audience feedback? How was that?
I had a beautiful, beautiful cast. Susan Kingsley and Kathy Bates were in the original cast. Susan Kingsley, I don't know if you know who she is. She's one of the greatest actresses on the planet. And it was received very well in Louisville. But I remember standing outside the theater, it was snowing. And I was like, people are paying to go see something I wrote. Are they crazy? I'm such a fraud. Look, they got babysitters. Oh, they've got their cars there. Oh my God. I was really taken to Bismol and just like, whoa.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That's, it's always fun for me to hear successful people talk about their nerves or their like questioning, because I always think that's just unique to, or like,
No, I was nervous about tonight. Are you kidding me? I'm serious.
Oh, that's so funny. I wouldn't have thought that.
I actually have a question. So what was there a point, either when you were writing it or during the actual production or after that, you realized that this play might have been something different and special for you, that got out of that nervousness, like why are people paying to watch this, to something that you were more confident in?
I remember after I wrote it, I was working like in the parts department at TRW for like $2.20 an hour. And part of my brain was going, what are you doing here? You've written a brilliant play. And then the other part of, you are so full of it. you just kind of try to get a 10-cent raise so you can pay the rent. So it's very torn between, oh, that's a really good play. I know it is. And just like then why are you working at TRW?
Right.
Right. I feel, and this is kind of maybe is going to skip ahead a little bit because I want to talk a little bit more about your process and the other shows that you've written. But I feel like this, what you're bringing up is a bit of a problem that we have with how we view the arts, which is you write something that is educational, that is moving, inspirational, and it's like, and people will pay to get entertained, but it's still not given the kind of value that a person can live off of.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very, because I've been around a long time, and this country does not support the arts, you know, and the arts need to be supported.
Right.
Very, very badly. And that's a lot of really stunning original playwrights have to go off and work TV series to make a living. They end up having a child, you know, they end up wanting to pay their rent.
Right.
You know? I mean, so I've written plays as well as screenplays.
Right.
And the screenplays I've primarily written for money, you know, and I try. The thing is, I want to tell your listeners, when you write a play, you maintain the copyright. That means if you, Samantha, write a play about your first love and it's a big success and the movies buy it from you, they give you a bunch of money, but you no longer have control over the property as a film. They can fire you, they can rewrite you, you don't have any say in casting. Whereas if you're with a dramatist guild and they do your play, you have casting approval, they can't change a line unless you say it. The bad thing is you get zero money, basically, you know, to look like a pauper. But you should definitely join the dramatist guild if you're a writer. And understand, because I've had some students, right, who wrote really personal screenplays, and then they got brought, and then they got $50,000, and then this great story is sitting on a shelf because of a billion reasons impossible to describe. Right.
Yeah, sometimes we don't think about the nasty side of this business.
Right.
I have so many friends. I think one of the worst stories is my friend Craig Ballatin. He's a screenwriter, and he'd written an original screenplay. And it was done by Marty Ritter, the director. And they were into filming, and he had a heart attack and had to go to the hospital. And because of insurance and everything else, they cut off the production, and they owned the script, and that was it.
Wow.
And like 10 years later, it was made with the same title, totally rewritten.
Oh, wow.
You know? So, I mean, it can be rough sledding.
Right.
Right. Do you find, I mean, it sounds to me that you have a stronger connection with theater than you do.
No question.
Do you find the impact from theater is stronger, or do you feel like there's more of an impact in the storytelling, or do you feel like they're maybe equal, or just is it just apples and oranges?
No, I mean, I think I have been in a theater and crying so much that I couldn't get up and leave the theater. I've also seen films that blow my mind.
Right.
You know, and have changed my life. So to me, theater is what I grew up with, and I love the aliveness of people being there performing for you, and the audience is breathing, and you're breathing, and the audience laughs, and you change the performance a little, or the audience gets bored, and you change the, you know, just the reality of that fascinates me. But I mean, I grew up with theater, so for me personally, that's what I love. But film, I can't say enough about the beauty of film, for sure. And now television.
And I think all three of us here are people who both have passion for theater and film, but they are for completely different reasons. Like for the two people that don't know, I go to LMU and she's my teacher. And so my major is film production, but my minor is theater. And I made that decision based on a lot of things, but it's like sometimes I have to decide like what do I want to focus on right now? And there's just are different things that I like about each medium, I guess.
Yeah.
It's completely different storytelling, it's all this. And especially in our playwriting class, I felt like the way that I had to write is way different than the way I have to write in my screenwriting classes. Not just technically, but also just the kinds of stories I'm telling. I don't feel like I can tell a big $100 million science fiction story in a play in the way that I could in a movie. So it's interesting in that there's just different ways to write it. And so it's a long-winded way of saying I have a question. And so like I said, you are my playwriting professor, and I have a lot of fellow students and friends who've had you in the past. And so what inspired you to want to start teaching playwriting and start teaching it at a college level?
Money. Regular money.
Great.
Salary. I've never had a salary in my life. You know, I've always been an independent contractor and having to get a job, and you spend 2 years on a play and it ditches, you know, and the idea that you can teach one class, and I love the students and they inspire me and make me, especially due to the pandemic, I have never been so grateful for my classes. But I'm always grateful for them. And you meet terrific people at a very interesting time in their life. And I was a terrible teacher when I started. I was just awful. And I'm not even a good teacher now, but I'm not a bad teacher.
You're a wonderful teacher. I'm about to gush about you for about 10 minutes in like a few seconds.
But it's hard to go to live from being professional to academic. Right. There's a big difference that you have to, I mean, I have to learn things by osmosis a lot of times, and that was one of them.
Yeah, so for me, just to gush about you for a few seconds here, I feel like as I've been taking your class, and for those, I'm like about halfway through taking her playwriting class at LMU, I feel like what you have helped me understand is what I want to write about. You know, I feel like in a lot of the screenwriting classes I've taken, they've handled a lot of the technical stuff. Okay, this is a 3-act structure. This is how you need to do it. You have to make sure that your characters are driving the story, like your protagonist driving the story for all that kind of thing. But I feel like for you, your class, you really made me realize what the kinds of stories I want to tell. And lost my train of thought. It happens often, but I think, that's what I was going to say. So one of the we did an exercise where it was in class and you made us write like a whole scene in 5 minutes. And then at the end of the 5 minutes, we had to change to a completely different scene. And mine was absolute just word vomit. And then we did a different exercise where you're like, okay, write for 4 hours with no distractions, no nothing. And everybody in the class was like, oh God, how am I going to do that? And then I sat down and started writing, and I wrote for I wrote like 10 pages, and I was like, all right, okay. And then an hour and a half had passed, and I was like, it just like came out of me. So it just was like, it was doing those kinds of exercises really helped me understand like the kinds of things I want to tell and the characters I want to create. So that was the end of my gushing about your wonderful work.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my main reason is to teach people to try to hear their own voice.
Absolutely.
Respect it, and to try to ask questions about it, and not look at failure as failure. Look at failure as information. And
right, and even
working, you know, you kind of figure out what's not working and move forward.
Even in that word vomit that I sent you and we read in class, I was like, okay, we're in a class. Who cares? This is what we're here for, is to mess up and do something that's weird and not great. So I really appreciate that you created that atmosphere in the class that it's like, it's okay to do something that you're not happy with or you think is bizarre or weird or bad. It's okay because that's how you learn. So I really thank you for that.
Oh, thank you, Sam.
I just wrote that down. I just took notes and wrote that down. I'm going to put it up so every time I walk out of my room, I am reminded so that I'm not so hard on myself. And I feel like as artists, exactly what you're saying, Sam, it's such a special gift that you're giving to your students is a safe space in which to create and to try and to I love that you're talking about this as failure as information, because I also teach acting, and it's not about it being a failure. It's not wrong. It's
Right.
just what information am I gathering? I think that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's funny because I feel like I was just thinking about Miss Firecracker. This is earlier we were saying, do you know who it is? And I was like, I think I might, because there's a monologue. And I wanted to work on a new monologue, and I was like, oh, there was this monologue a while ago that I saw a girl do, and I was like, I always wanted to work on it. It's from Little Miss Firecracker. I would say Little Miss Firecracker. It's Miss Firecracker Contest, but anyway, it's I feel like when you have an opportunity to delve into a character that is so layered and rich, it's like you have the opportunity to be free, and that I feel is what you're offering your students is some freedom.
What character and monologue was it?
It's the one where she is talking about wanting, like, the contestant wanting everything red, and like dyes her hair red, and it's really cute.
Oh, good.
I also relate to that because I did pageants not to win, just for the scholarship money. I was like, I'm not going to win this. I'm not trying to win it. I just want the scholarship.
Of course.
Fantastic. Because I'm writing actually a screenplay based on a podcast by a woman who was winning these contests in Anniston, Alabama. And she finally came from very poor, very ignorant background. And this woman who had a charm school really mentored her and got her to the Waldorf Astoria in a modeling contest, and kind of changed her life. But that's very, what did you try out for? Or, I mean, what did you win or not win?
Wait, in the pageants or for why I want learning the modeling? Oh, in the pageant. Oh, girl. I did, let's see, I'm trying to think. There was not Miss Congeniality. They had another word for it. I also,
I love that word, Miss Congeniality.
Miss Congeniality, I do too. They also had a special award for talent. We also got like a dentist gave a scholarship, and he had a really great smile. They give you everything in these pageants.
That's hysterical. I love that.
It's so weird. I know. But for the talent, because this is going to be so telling, every girl back whenever I was in pageants in the 90s before I was born, every girl sang Phantom of the Opera or some medley of Phantom of the Opera, one song. I know. And it was just like, oh my gosh, if I hear this one more time. So what did I do? I come out in a giant square dancing outfit with a big old huge bow and my big old curly hair and sang I Can't Say No from Oklahoma.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter whether or not I'm good.
Love that. Have you seen the new Oklahoma or heard it? I Can't Say No.
The new one?
Yeah, the one that was on Broadway last year.
Yeah, not that new, but
I wanted to see it, but I was gonna see it at the Pantages. I think it was actually gonna be like now, but obviously I can't do that. So I was really wanted
that song, the lyrics in that song, the story of that song is so feminist for when it was written. You know,
It really
and
is.
a whole way you could view a woman that's completely fun.
And it's interesting because I still sing it. And it's interesting now. It's so funny that you say that because we're looking through post Me Too eyes. And exactly what you say. I mean, it was so scandalous, this girl saying that. And now I'm looking at it going, why am I apologizing? You know, like this is.
Well, I mean, I never, the way she sings the song is I Can't Say No. It's kind of a triumph. You know?
Yes. It's such a twist, and I love that. It's very exciting. There's also we're totally off topic. No, we're just they're just having a theater show. We're like also about the history of the musical Oklahoma, but it is so interesting how everybody like fantasized Oklahoma. And, here's Lori, this farm girl, and she's in a pretty dress and perfect little braids. And I'm like, no, I don't know if you've ever been to a farm in Oklahoma, but you are dirty.
I know.
Pants. And even back in the day when my great grandmother and all of them were wearing skirts, they were still, not clean, not nice. They did not come home looking, it's a farm.
Like they look in the movies at the farm.
Yeah.
Right.
So, anyway, now I'm totally onto this and I've completely.
Now to get back on track, I know. Let's talk about you. So I know we have talked about this and you've covered this a little bit already, but I wanted to ask you, what is the thing that keeps you coming back to theater, and why do you think that? What do you think is the power and the importance of theater, and why is it something that you are so passionate about for your whole life?
To me, one of the happiest things is when you write a play and then I do like a reading in my living room, just with people I know, actors I know, and the characters are released into the room and I hear them for the first time. I don't give any notes or tell anybody how to act it or not act it. And that is such a heroin high. It's irresistible. And starting rehearsal, heroin high. And then there's torture along the way, certainly. But it's just such a beautiful experience. And everyone is trying to tell a story together. And they're trying to tell it with a complexity and nuance and flair. And right. that attracts me very much.
That's something that I swear every guest has said, where it's always about the community, and it's about all of these different people coming together to tell the same story. And mm-hmm. I think that is just how many times we've gotten a similar kind of like, this is why I do it, I think proves that theater is really about all these different kinds of people coming together to make people feel something, make people entertained, and tell a story. And so I think it's just further proof of that.
It's a mini version of life, because
right.
These people come together, they create something, they give it out to people, and then it poofs. But anybody you've been in a good production with, you always feel close to them.
Yeah.
Yes.
In a I don't know, deep way.
Right.
It's a transcendence. It's just something that is above this plane that we can that we have words for, that we can. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, Beth, what's your process when you start to work on a piece? Are you always writing and then just something unfolds, or how do you get these ideas, and then what do you do once you got them?
It's sort of different. Right now I'm writing a screenplay based on a podcast, so that's very solid. The podcast has a beginning, middle, and end, although it's 10 minutes, and so you have to make it 2 hours or whatever. But for plays, I like to keep notebooks and write every day, even if it's just 3 pages or something. And I end up finding what I need to write about a lot of times. Sometimes it comes to me once or twice, that's happened, but generally it's the search.
Right. It just comes from actively doing.
Yeah. So one thing that you had assigned to us was to write a 10-minute play. And so I was like, gosh, I don't know what I'm going to write about. And so I just sat down and just started spitballing ideas. And then at some point I was like, oh, I can't get this out of my head. And just started going. And that's how it happens for me. And so I was like, oh, good. That is how you're supposed to do it. You're just supposed to start.
There's no how you're supposed to do it. That's the way I do it. There are a million different better ways to do it. clearer ways to do it, stupider ways to do it. You just got to do it.
Right.
You just got to do it.
Yeah, that's what my motto for my class is: show up. Just
show up.
And I particularly meant that on Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
And my class really does show up for everybody else that's there, even in never having seen them face to face. And that's kind of extraordinary.
Well, especially us reading each other's work, I think has really brought us together as a group and keeps us so engaged in class. I love seeing what other people have written and being able to read it out loud. And then when other people read aloud mine, it was like, just this amazing experience. So it's
only
really
9
great.
people, but they're very talented 9 people. And I think the acting's been kind of extraordinary, or at least people just dipping into reading things.
I know, like there's some just really, really talented people in that class.
Yeah.
That's a gift. That's a real gift. So you touched on 2 things that I think are great. I think one, that you do this regularly. And I think that gets a little bit of the fear out, right? If you're doing it all the time, you don't have time to sit there.
And I would be lying, Samantha, if I said I was doing it all the time. There are days and days and days and days and days and days and days I do nothing.
Of course. How, when you've got your idea, you've written it, you've fleshed it out, you've done however many drafts, and you're now releasing it, we're putting it up to production. How involved do you like to be in the production of a play?
Well, if it's a first production, very involved. Like I mentioned, you have power as a dramatist at the Writers Guild. You can approve the director, approve the cast.
Oh, wow.
They can't change it, but you hope to get a director who is in your groove and can really help you shape your play and make it better. And the actors that can make it better. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about theater. If my level is here, and with all the help of designers and actors and directors, it can go up here. On the other hand, it can go down there, which is like a bummer.
Right. So have you had, in your experiences when you're producing it for the first time and you have that influence from the designers and the actors and everybody, do you find that you make changes?
Absolutely.
Large changes, or just different words here and there? Or how does that?
Some scenes go, I mean, if you have good actors, and they can make, the thing about that is they make bad things work because they're so good. So you really have to be vigilant and say, is that just working because this genius actor is doing it? Or is that really helping with the rhythm and story and the character? I've already said that about the character and don't need it, Yeah, having a production, my favorite part is when you're having previews. And that means you do a performance at night with an audience, excruciating. And then the next day you go and work on revisions. That's when you figure out just so much that you can't figure out in a rehearsal room.
By getting all that feedback.
Yeah.
Do you find, though, that sometimes you get varied feedback, where one night audiences are behaving in a certain way, and then the next night, maybe all the laughter?
A lot of that depends on the size of the theater. That's very true in smaller theaters. But if you're in a big Broadway theater, which I'm generally not in, there does become the things that get the laughs. I think it's a percentage thing. There are so many people that will find that funny, and if you've got 100 people, they might find nothing funny, or everything funny. It's kind of statistics.
Yeah, that's so true. It's so fascinating to me because, a lot of times when I have been in original pieces, but I've directed one original piece.
Oh, wow.
So my point is, by the time we get it to do it, it's already had that moment. It's already gone through the workshopping. It's already gone through the first production where it was fine-tuned. And we're still finding with our
Yeah.
production that audiences are responding vastly different, that you'll have people gravitating to something or not, or complaining about it sometimes. It's really fascinating, just the human nature. And I always wonder, like, in the process of building it, how do you filter that out?
Well, you don't. You want the audience response. They're a huge part of creating, you know. I mean, they're in there too, telling you like, you know, and maybe they're laughing too much, you know, and you want them to like be more serious. You know, it's
Right.
you got to walk the line.
So I hear a lot from writers that you can, and editors actually too in film, but you can constantly be working, constantly be like changing little nuances, constantly be just fixing something or being affected by what you're hearing from the audience. Do you find that, do you feel that same way too, that like at some point you just have to kind of force yourself to be like, okay, this is it, we're done, no more changes?
Well, definitely if, say, I was doing a play and after previews for the actors, you said it, that's it.
Yeah.
You don't want to mess the actors up anymore. They're already flustered by the idea of previews and changing things, you know, in the day and doing it at night.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely after opening, there are no changes.
Right.
Not that if I'm publishing it, I wouldn't make little changes here and there, you know, but for the company, lighting designers, you know, everybody's got to know this is pretty much set.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Such an interesting thing to say, here's my baby, it's yours now.
It's done. We can't do anything left.
Oh, this
It's
is
always so sad because you see your connection and your company, they don't need you anymore. But they're going on to like maybe the best part for them,
right.
You know, performing in front of an audience. But I wouldn't trade it for anything, really.
Right.
Yeah.
That's part of our journey as artists. And
right.
there are going to be those moments that are sad. There are going to be those moments that are terrifying. And then there's that bliss and joy that is irreplaceable. Before we get on to our silly questions, I wanted to ask too, do you have an end game? Do you have an objective when you're writing your pieces that you want the audience to walk away with?
No, never, because everybody's different. Everybody's at a different place in their life. And somebody may see something, a love story that will make them weep, and something may see something that will make them cringe. I just want them to be involved and be a little bit concerned. You know, that's what I hope for. Not for a lesson. I don't want to teach a lesson. I don't know anything. So basically it's impossible for me to teach a lesson because I really don't know anything.
That's so interesting.
I know. I'm hearing you say that and I'm like, I'm going to beg to differ because I got works.
No, I don't know. What do I know? I mean, look at the world. It's unknowable. It's the most unknowable creation, the world.
Right.
Right.
Right. Right. Because you're just really reflecting human behavior and life.
And what do they know?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love the way you say, I just want them to be involved.
Yeah.
And I feel they're not. Believe me, they're sleeping. They're like, you know.
Well, it's also so interesting to think of the audience as a part of this creative process too, especially in that preview, that whole preview. I don't know the word, but when you're going through the previews, it's just like they are very much involved in the creative process. If they're not, they're not engaged. You know, if they're not engaged and they don't care, it's like, well, why not? So it's so interesting that you put it that way, I think.
They're the final character.
Oh.
said they're the final character.
Is that a question?
The audience.
Oh, no, I'm just saying that when that audience.
Oh, the audience is the final character. I get it. Okay, a little slow. Sorry.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So let's. These are we always ask our fun theater questions.
Fun questions.
Which are, do you have a favorite experience or piece that you really love, or maybe a production that has stood out to you as your favorite, or are you just like, you're asking me to choose between my children and I will not do that?
No, I could say some of the greatest experiences aren't in my living room when I'm hearing it for the first time.
Yeah.
With my actor friends and a few other friends that I know will give me some slack. But I really love the production of the Jacksonian that was directed by Robert Falls, and we did it in Los Angeles and we did it in New York, and it kept growing. And it was a difficult play. It was out of time. And I was very proud of that. You know, a lot of times you feel like you miss the mark, but I thought they got pretty close.
Oh, I love that.
It's always a good feeling.
I love that.
Yeah.
I also love that your favorite experiences are in your living room. And that just goes, I mean, you are about the craft. You're just about the storytelling. And so it doesn't really matter. It's the experience. That's so great. Do you want to ask?
Yeah, I do. Have you had, this is my personal favorite question. Have you ever had any like debacles that have happened in a production that you were involved in, or with you personally in the theater? Funny stories or crazy stories. You don't have to name names if you don't want to.
No, I mean, endless, like endless, every production, right? I mean, I must say, okay, I was doing my second play on Broadway, and it had been done in Hartford, Connecticut, and it was beautiful, but it didn't work on the Broadway stage. And we're at the after party, and people start leaving. This is how long ago it was. You're waiting for the New York Times, you're waiting for the reviews.
Oh, yeah.
Suddenly, they say you're over, and and I was literally on a street corner, sitting in the gutter with a bottle of whiskey, crying. And my best friend Melita, who was in the play, came up and said, but when we were like, we said it didn't matter. We were here. It was just about doing the show. And I was like, we lied. We lied. And it closed in 21 days. Yeah, that was grim. That was grim.
But look where you are now.
You know what? That is so inspiring to me. I have to say, because I think, well, I've never done this after a debacle, one of our debacle stories, but I have to say there's a lesson here. And I think it's kind of wrapping it to where we were when we started, which is we don't value creativity and art in this country enough. Right. And we have an expectation for it. And we put this expectation on writers, directors, and actors, creators, which is entertain me, move me, educate me. And I don't think that's the purpose of our art. Mm-hmm. I think the purpose of our art is to share and just be involved in this, even if it is.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. And I feel like, but that's why you can sit in your living room with your friends reading a piece you wrote and be like, this is one of my most favorite experiences in my life. Yeah. Because it's about that journey of it. And I feel like that's what we need to be celebrating. I teach young kids acting. It is rare that I'm in class. Yeah. Oh gosh, anywhere from 6 to 16 is what it.
Oh, wow.
Then we went actually until they graduated high school. But you know, it is very rare that I'm sitting in a class with 10 kids that I'm going, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You know what I mean? Like they're learning. But at the same time, there are so many times that I'm like, oh, this is so amazing.
Where you can
because
just
it's
see the
about what they
improvement. You can
have.
see that they're trying, and you can see that they're just like
And
they really care about it.
And they're playing and they're creating.
Yeah.
It doesn't sometimes make sense. But it's
And
still
that's a life worth living, you know, to be in tune with the creative process.
Yes.
And to grow that in other people.
Yes. And then in the same hand, I am with you in the gutter with a bottle of whiskey going, we lie. Because it does mean something. It does. I mean, it just does.
Things. It's feel both ways.
We could look through a different lens. If we were looking through a different critical lens, then we might not be in the gutter. Right?
Right.
I was so gutter bound. You know, my family was there. They were very mixed about what this play was about. But luckily, one of the actresses, Pat Richardson, was in it, and she said, "Okay, if the reviews go bad, we meet at my house on my apartment on Riverside Drive." And we all like ended up on Riverside Drive. You know, I also had another terrible failure, but I was like the last one, kind of at the party, and everyone's gone. You know? That was off Broadway, but it can be brutal. And that show closed in a week. And it's rough sledding.
You know, I have to say, to have a show even open for a day on Broadway, that like I can only dream.
Yeah, I hear you. I've been very, very blessed.
That is awesome.
Miraculously blessed.
Beth, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us and let us ask you all these questions.
Thank you, Sam, and it's great to meet you, Samantha. I'm sorry I was here for your birthday.
That's okay. This is such a treat, and it is such an honor to meet you and speak with you. I literally could just talk with you for hours. I just think that you are just a doll and so brilliant and talented, and wow. I don't know what to say. I'm beyond. It really is an honor.
That's very heartwarming.
Well, it's true. It is an honor, and I thank you for your work. And it is there
company and for your work in theater and keeping it alive, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yay. I look forward to many good things. I'm looking forward to seeing this film about the podcast and the woman in the project.
So should I go now?
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.